I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 10 years now. We've got a son, Jake, who's 12, and everything seemed fine, normal, even. We had our issues, sure, but nothing out of the ordinary. We'd argue about the usual stuff, money, chores, how Lisa never seemed to understand that I work my ass off to give us a decent life. But I trusted her. I really did. Or at least I thought I did. Things started feeling off a few months ago. Lisa became more distant, more bitchy, snapping at me over small things. She'd cancel plans last minute, say she was tired or busy, and I'd find her glued to her phone more than usual. She also started dressing differently, more provocative, and I'd catch her sneaking around the house with her phone hidden behind her back or quickly deleting messages. Nothing concrete, but enough to make my gut twist. Then came the football season. I'd always been into my son's games, coaching him, cheering him on. Lisa usually came along, but she'd been skipping more and more games lately, saying she was busy or had other things to do. At first, I thought she was just overworked or maybe embarrassed about Jake's performance. Kids can be awkward at that age, and maybe she didn't want to be seen cheering him on with the other moms. But it kept happening, and I started noticing a pattern. She wasn't just missing games, she was making excuses that didn't quite add up. She'd say she was going out with friends, but I'd run into her at the grocery store or see her on social media with different guys. Nothing overt, but enough to raise questions. Then last weekend, things hit a new level. I was cleaning up after Jake's game, and I decided to check the team bus's dashcam footage. I'd heard rumors about it being used in disciplinary situations, so I figured, what the hell? Maybe I'd catch a glimpse of Jake messing around, or some other kid being a brat. I didn't think I'd find anything about Lisa. The footage was a shock. I saw the bus parked outside a hotel late at night after an away game, and there she was, my wife, Lisa, getting into a car with someone. I couldn't quite see who, but the car looked familiar. Then I saw her push the door open for the guy and lean in. My stomach sank. I rewound it a few times, trying to process what I was seeing. It wasn't just a friendly chat or a quick hello. It was obvious they were more than just friends. They looked at each other like they were about to do something they shouldn't be doing in a parking lot. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the evidence was staring me in the face. I watched the footage again and again, trying to convince myself I was wrong. But the more I looked, the clearer it became. That was Lisa, and that was not just her brother's friend or some random guy. That was Todd, the football coach's brother, and I knew him well enough to know this was a big deal. He's a decent guy, but that doesn't change the fact that my wife was cheating on me with someone involved in my kid's team, no less. I kept replaying the footage all night, feeling sick, angry, betrayed. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was the fact that Lisa lied so effortlessly, denied everything when I confronted her. I remember waking her up the next morning, showing her the footage, expecting her to break down or at least come clean. Instead, she brushed it off with that bitty smirk and a string of excuses, saying I was crazy, that the guy was just a friend, that I was imagining things. She called me paranoid, insecure, and said I was ruining our marriage with my trust issues. But I knew what I saw. I knew she was lying out of her ass. That's where I am now, just trying to process how I got here, how I trusted someone who clearly didn't deserve it. I feel stupid for missing all the signs, for not seeing it sooner. And I'm furious at her for thinking she could get away with this, for thinking she could lie through her teeth and I wouldn't find out. I honestly don't know what to do next, but I do know one thing: this isn't going to sit well with me. Not anymore. I spent the next few days in a fog. Every time I tried to talk to Lisa, she'd switch gears so fast. It was like walking into a wall. She'd give me that same bitchy smirk, call me paranoid, or accuse me of reading too much into things. She threw around words like insecurities, trust issues, and even told me I was overreacting because I'm just jealous or possessive. That's the thing, she always knew how to turn things around, make me doubt myself. But I wasn't stupid. Deep down, I knew she was hiding something, and now I had proof. I started digging more, checking her phone, her social media, anything I could get my hands on. It was like peeling an onion, layer after layer. I found texts and messages, some from Todd, some from other guys she'd been talking to. Nothing explicit at first, but enough to know she was playing a dangerous game. She'd flirt, send suggestive messages, and then deny everything when I confronted her. She'd say I was just insecure, that I didn't trust her, that she was just talking to these guys because I was never around or attentive enough. She made it sound like I was the problem, like she was just trying to find some excitement outside our marriage because I was. So boring. But then I found something else, a string of hotel receipts, late-night Uber charges, and vague excuses about business trips she'd been on. That was the final nail. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. So I sat her down, finally, with everything laid out in front of her. I told her I knew about Todd, about the affair, and I wanted to hear her explanation. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes and threw a tantrum, calling me crazy, possessive, and saying I was ruining everything with my accusations. She called me controlling, said I was just jealous because I knew I couldn't compete with Todd's charisma. That's when I just about lost it. I told her I wasn't jealous, I was furious. Furious that she'd betray everything we stood for, betray me and our son, and lie like it was nothing. Her response: a snide remark about how I was boring and she needed something more exciting. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a fling, she was done with us, done with me, and she was looking for some fake excitement with Todd's brother of all people. I couldn't believe how callous she'd become. She's always been a bitch, but this was next level. She's throwing her marriage away over some stupid affair, and for what? A fleeting moment of sex, of excitement. I kept asking her why, what the hell she thought she was doing, but she just shrugged and told me I didn't understand her, that I never really did, that she didn't love me anymore. Honestly, it hurt more than I thought it would. For a while, I was numb, just trying to process how someone I loved and trusted could do something so cruel and selfish. That confrontation was the breaking point. I realized I was wasting my energy trying to fix what was clearly broken beyond repair. She didn't want to stop. She was already planning her escape, and I could see it in her eyes, in her tone. I knew I had to make a decision, a choice I'd been dreading but knew I had to face. Do I fight for her, try to salvage what's left, or do I cut my losses and walk away? The truth was, I was angry, heartbroken, and feeling so betrayed that I didn't see a way back. Not anymore. After that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing with all the lies she told, all the times I overlooked the signs, every moment I thought we had something real. It was like a punch in the gut every time I thought about how she'd been sneaking around with Todd's brother during away games, probably behind my back the entire time. I couldn't believe I was so blind, so naive. And now, I felt this overwhelming mix of rage and sadness, like I'd been sucker punched by the woman I loved. The worst part: knowing she's still lying, still hiding things from me. I decided I needed evidence, something concrete to make her face what she'd done. I started planning my next move carefully. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without more proof. So I covertly checked her phone when she wasn't around, looked through her emails, her social accounts. That's when I found more messages, flirty, explicit, downright disgusting, right under my nose. She convinced herself she was clever, but I saw everything now. One day I decided to follow her, not in a stalking way, but just to see where she was going, who she was meeting. I parked nearby, pretending I was just out for a walk, and saw her slip out the door with her purse. She headed straight toward that hotel near the interstate. My heart pounded. I parked a block away and watched her go inside. Moments later, Todd's brother showed up. They went in together. I felt like my world was crumbling. That night, I finally decided I couldn't keep this bottled up. I called her, told her I knew everything, and demanded she come home so we could talk. She answered with her typical snide tone, insisting I was overreacting, that it was all a misunderstanding, that I was jealous and insecure. I told her I had enough and that I was coming to pick her up. When she finally came out, she looked at me with total disdain, like I was the one in the wrong. She told me to mind my own business, that she didn't owe me any explanations. The drive back was the most bitter silence I'd ever experienced. Her words were like knives, and I felt this deep, aching betrayal. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her confess everything. The more I thought about her, Sneaking around during those away games, the more I realized how much I'd been played, lied to, manipulated, used like a fool. I kept replaying that dashcam footage in my head over and over again like some sick movie I couldn't turn off. At that moment, I knew I couldn't stay in the same place anymore. I had to decide whether to forgive, to fight for her, or to walk away for good. But deep down, I knew I'd never forget what I'd seen. That betrayal was etched into my mind now, burned into my soul. I felt numb, exhausted, and sick with grief and anger. The woman I married, the mother of my child, had become a stranger, and I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, if I even wanted to. All I knew was that my life was about to change forever. The next few days were a blur of chaos. I couldn't focus on work, on anything really. All I could think about was her and that stupid hotel, Todd's brother, the betrayal sitting heavy on my chest. I kept replaying every conversation, every lie she told, trying to find a way to make sense of it all. I was furious, but beneath that anger was a deep, aching sadness, like I'd lost a part of myself I'd never get back. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with a plan. I couldn't just accuse her blindly. I needed her to admit everything, to see her caught in her own web of lies. So I waited until she came home that evening, trying to steel myself for what I knew would be a blowout. I had my phone recording just in case. I wanted every word, every reaction documented. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. When she walked through the door, she looked like she knew she was in trouble. That smirk was gone, replaced with a defiant glare. I didn't waste time. I sat her down, turned on my recorder, and asked her straight up, "Who the hell have you been sleeping with, Lisa?" Her eyes flickered with contempt. She rolled her eyes, scoffing like I was an idiot. "You're crazy, Mike. You're always accusing me of stuff I haven't done. Maybe if you paid more attention, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." I was seething. "Cut the crap. I saw the hotel receipts, the Uber charges, the texts. I saw you sneaking out during the away games, meeting Todd's brother. How many times, Lisa? How many times did you cheat on me?" She clenched her fists, face twisting with rage. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're just insecure, jealous, and controlling. I've been nothing but loyal to you, even when you're out working late, ignoring me. Maybe I needed someone who actually cared about me, someone who didn't treat me like I'm invisible." That was the moment I realized she'd gone completely off the rails. She was spinning this story like she was the victim, like I was the villain. I felt my blood boil. "You think I don't see what you're doing? You're lying, you're cheating, and I've had enough of your bullshit. I want a real answer. Are you sleeping with Todd's brother? Be honest with me." She looked at me like I was crazy, then smirked again, like she found the whole thing amusing. "Yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I needed some excitement, something different. I'm not happy, Mike. You're dull, predictable, and honestly, you're just blah. I don't love you anymore. I don't even like you most of the time." That was like a punch in the gut. All the anger I'd been holding back exploded. I couldn't believe she was so cold, so callous. I was shaking, trying to hold it together. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, staring at her, feeling hollow. How did I get here? How did my wife become a stranger, a cheat, a liar? I knew then that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to make a choice, whether to fight for this marriage, to try to repair what was broken, or to accept it was over. I felt exhausted, defeated. The love I once had for her was crumbling fast. I looked at her, this woman I'd trusted for so long, and I realized that trust was gone, completely shattered. And I wondered how I was supposed to move forward after discovering she'd been unfaithful during our son's football games, hiding her affair behind a web of lies, sneaking around with Todd's brother like some secret. Honestly, I felt numb. The only thing I knew for sure was that nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed were even worse. I kept replaying that confrontation in my head, trying to figure out if I'd missed the signs or if I'd just been blind. Honestly, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was constantly in knots, and I kept waking up in the middle of the night, sweating and trembling. Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger, someone I no longer recognized as the woman I married. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but it wasn't easy. Part of me wanted to fight for her, to believe there was some way to fix this mess. But deep down, I understood that trust was broken beyond repair. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every glance, every touch now tinged with suspicion. How do you come back from something like this? How do you even start to rebuild after betrayal like that? I also realized I couldn't just keep going through the motions. I had to be honest with myself. I sat her down again, this time with a calmer tone, and laid everything out. I told her I was done pretending, that I couldn't keep living like this, knowing she was with her lover during our son's away games, hiding her lies behind a wall of bullshit. I told her I wanted her to leave, that I was done being manipulated and betrayed. Her reaction: she threw a fit. She yelled, called me names, said I was overreacting, that I was trying to control her. She told me I was reading too much into things, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I was destroying our marriage over some stupid accusations. She looked at me like I was the crazy one, like I was the villain. But I knew I was. I saw what I saw. I knew the truth. I decided I couldn't keep living in denial. I told her she needed to go, that I wanted her out of the house as soon as possible. She argued, shouted, but I stood firm. I'd reached my limit. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine or that I could look the other way. I told her I'd file for divorce if she didn't leave voluntarily. She snorted and said I was overreacting, that I'd regret it. But I didn't care anymore. I just wanted her gone. The day she finally packed her bags and left, I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. On one hand, it was like a huge weight had been lifted, but on the other, I was devastated. I thought about our son, Jake, and wondered how this would affect him. I knew I had to stay strong for him, stay focused on rebuilding my own life. I also realized that I'd been a fool, believing in a fairy tale marriage that was long dead. Now I'm left with a lot of questions. How did I not see it coming? Why didn't I trust my instincts sooner? And most of all, how the hell do you move on from something like this? I don't have all the answers yet. I'm just trying to breathe, trying to process that the woman I loved and thought loved me back was out there, screwing around during our son's football games and lying like it was nothing. It's a painful lesson, but one I guess I had to learn the hard way. Now I spend most days just trying to figure out who I am without her. It's strange. After so many years together, I thought I knew her inside out. Turns out I didn't know her at all. The betrayal cut so deep that I sometimes wonder if I'll ever really trust anyone again. But I've also realized I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this chaos, this heartbreak, and somehow I'm still standing. I've started seeing a therapist, trying to make sense of all the anger, sadness, and betrayal. It's not easy, but I know I can't keep carrying this burden forever. I tell myself every day that I did the right thing, getting out, ending that toxic chapter of my life. I want my son to grow up in an environment where honesty and loyalty matter. I refuse to let her actions define my future or my happiness. Looking back, I've learned some hard lessons. Trust isn't something you should take for granted. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you want to believe in fairy tales. And most of all, respect yourself enough to walk away from someone who no longer values you. I'll never forget what she did, but I also refuse to let it destroy me. In the end, I know I'll heal. It might take time, but I will move forward. I'll focus on my son, my work, and rebuilding my own sense of worth. I want him to see that even when life throws you the worst kind of betrayal, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. Because that's what life about: learning, growing, and never letting anyone steal your peace. So to anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And if you find yourself betrayed, remember, you have the strength to walk away and start over. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and integrity are what really matter. And no one, no matter how much they pretend to love you, has the right to take that away.